What is up, people? You know that sound. It is the Unfiltered Band. It is episode 50, episode number 50 of Unfiltered. I'm entitling this one, it is Life Pod Series Part 5. If you've not caught the first 4 parts of this or installments of this Life Pod series, please do yourself a favor. If it doesn't help you, which it might help somebody you know. It might help you realize that somebody you know needs help. Either way, Life Pod Series Part 5, episode 50 overall. This one, Inspire When Under Fire. And thank you, Unfiltered Band. You can get your Unfiltered Revolution merch, which is really, again, it's not a sports thing. This is more about a life thing. It's about being you, being authentic, and being unapologetic for who you are. Please get your merch. You can get it on Twitter. You can get it at the Believe shop. That's BLEAV. You can find out that information on my Twitter or ask me about it. DM me if you need anything. Let me know. I hadn't planned, like with the other ones, to do, I didn't know a part 4 was coming. I didn't know I was going to do a part 5. Kind of with these Life Pod series, hitting things other than sports because I think it's important. And because I think even in a world where, like today, everybody's either focused on, their fantasy football draft or college football's first, full Saturday slate, or, whether or not their team's going to get into the playoffs in baseball, or, the hockey season coming, or whatever it might be. I think it's important to stop and discuss things that are more important than sports, especially when you get inspired the way that I was yesterday. I've had the pleasure to, over the last 20 years, interview many players, and some I've gotten the opportunity to become friends with, others are just acquaintances, some I've only talked to once, never again. I've had the chance on a few different occasions to chat with Austin Meadows. If you're not a baseball fan, or you are a baseball fan, you don't know him, you weren't a Rays fan, you're not a Tigers fan, you want to get on Twitter, and you're going to want to after this episode. And I hope you send him some nice notes. And if listening to this kind of leads you there for him, I hope that happens. And you can get him at Austin_Meadows. Ironically, when I looked at his Twitter just now, because I wanted to open it to read what he wrote, I didn't realize that the last tweet that he had sent before the one yesterday was a retweet of an interview that I did with him back 2 years ago. So, I was humbled to see that. But I want to read what he wrote yesterday and why I was inspired to do another Life Pod episode. And it's going to be fast and furious, I think, for the next few days, because I got that underrated Mets piece, and I've got some other stuff coming after kind of a few days on hiatus. So I'm trying to kind of split them up so that way people can kind of pick and choose what they want, because I think it's easier that way in today's day and age versus just running an hour and a half with you. Clearly, obviously, I have the stamina to do that, doing 4 hours a day for 13 years. But here's what Austin Meadows wrote. Quote, "This season has been an unfortunate struggle with a series of injuries and illness. Dealing with vertigo early on, then COVID, bilateral tendonitis in my Achilles, and having to go through the rehab process each time. What I've told very few people is that I've also been struggling with my mental health in a way that has extended my time away from the game I love so much. I've been dealing with this privately with a great team of professionals, but I need to continue to put in the hard work off the field towards feeling mentally healthy. While I've been back in the clubhouse the past few weeks and plan to remain with the club through the end of the season, I am still not ready to return to the field. I'm so grateful for my family, my teammates, and the Tigers organization for supporting me through this. I cannot do this alone, and I hope in sharing my experience, I can touch at least one person who might be going through their own struggles and encourage them to reach out to someone for help." I take a breath because it's breathtaking to see bravery of this manner from athletes and from people in the limelight and the center of any kind of attention, who are baseball players like rock stars, not supposed to have vulnerability, not supposed to be fallible, not supposed to go 0 for 4, heavens, mind you. They're supposed to be impenetrable. They're supposed to be role models. They're supposed to be the stars everyone wants to be. And that's usually based on how many hits they get or what they do on the field or how important they become in the life of sport in their career. What Austin Meadows did yesterday, no matter what he does, and I hope God bless if he gets to watch this, and I hope he does, the rest of his career will be the most valuable and important thing he ever does as a professional athlete. To share the fact that it is okay to be vulnerable, that it's okay to not be okay, that it's okay to need help, that it's okay to lean on others, that it's okay to not feel great, that it's okay to go through issues of anxiety and depression and whatever else he may or may not be going through. That so many of us have and do. And I've talked about, my struggles with anxiety over the course of my lifetime many times publicly and will continue to do so, and learning from them and how to handle them. And I remember talking about it in a recent pod. I think it's been like 20 years since I had, any kind of a panic attack at all because of just how much I've learned from other people as well as going through so many things in my life. What Austin Meadows did yesterday by putting that out publicly, by making that kind of a statement, will inspire anyone who reads it. Will inspire them because it's brave, because it's honest, because it's vulnerable, because there are stupid people on this earth who are dumb and don't understand that you have to lift other people. And that he knows there will be ridicule and who knows whatever else will come from it. However stupid, that will still be there. That everywhere he goes, every time he puts on a uniform, somebody may be thinking, like with a Kevin Love or a DeMar DeRozan or so many others, that there's something wrong with him or different about him or that he's weak in some way. Strength comes from weakness, and the strongest people in the world are the ones who are able to show it. The biggest fallacy on earth that I have learned and gone through myself and seen with other people, the biggest fallacy on this earth is the idea that if you cry or you hurt, that you are weak, because it takes strength to have feelings. It takes strength to have emotions. Weak people hide from it. Weak people pretend. Weak people are fake. Weak people are actors and imposters of who even they are because they're afraid of their own families in many ways not to accept them. And I've talked about knowing people in my life very close to me that have had their entire lives changed, whether they'll ever say it outwardly or not, that people around them know their entire lives have changed because their own family didn't accept that there's something wrong with them. So they had to pretend there isn't. Not a good way to live. Thankfully, that's not something I've had to go through. But I've gone through in my own life. People at times when I've been low, even for very good reason. Forget about anxiety or anything that I had, physically or clinically, who literally have laughed at me, insulted me, put me down, abandoned me, mocked me. I mentioned in an earlier pod, and something that Austin Meadows and people who are in the public eye have to deal with all the time. And look, at a much lower level, please understand. Even I do, being on TV and radio over the years, not as much now, but certainly years ago, right? I mean, I made the joke about even at like the lowest level, like, saying Nevada instead of Nevada, and then like the thousands of people who are mad at me. And literally, you can't do anything wrong, right? When it's something on this level, it's about the people who are close to you. The people who are far away, I never really care what any of them think. That's never been a problem for me necessarily, unless they didn't think I was good at my job. And yeah, that bothered me because I care for what I do in my craft, just like any player would or any musician or anybody else who does anything, right? Where they're in the public eye and they're working hard at something. But something that I've had to go through that, in reading and hearing what Austin Meadows was saying, you hope he is not. My circle of people who were there for me in my lowest moments is very, very small. Part of that because I couldn't tell anyone what I was going through because I was too afraid and because I was embarrassed, because I didn't understand that it was okay. And I think that anybody in the case of an athlete, goes through that times a million because you don't want anybody to know anything. I can't even imagine the bravery of doing something like what Austin just did. It is unbelievably inspiring. I've said for years, even before I even went through anything in my life, I've said for years, the true power is to empower. And I really do believe that. And I've always believed in lifting other people. And, your candle doesn't burn brighter when you blow out somebody else's, but people don't believe that in life. And I've lived it. And I mentioned in an earlier pod, I don't remember what I was talking about, the Manti Te'o or what, because I always give it to you, as I always say, as real as I can. If I can't, I can't. If I can, I will. I mean, even if somebody else wouldn't, I will. Because I am who I am. It's okay. And I'm good with it. Really. I went through a time where a lot of people will go through, where you test the waters about, hey, look, there are a lot of things going on, and maybe it's kind of overwhelming for anybody to deal with, let alone somebody with anxiety. And who knows, it's like where the chicken or the egg, or does A start or B ends, right? When you find out that the people that you trust most have been making fun of you, which is something I've mentioned before, I actually had to read in front of me and found out was happening to me and had no knowledge of. I mean, we're talking about for like months and months. It's the hardest thing you could ever go through in your life, because it's that circle of trust, right? To use the meet the parents thing. It's that circle of people that are your balance. They're your basis for Austin Meadows now, for me, for anybody else, right? They're your base of like, these are the people that I trust get me, and they know me, and they understand me. And with no offense at all, like I always like, even when stuff was going on family wise, people like support, whether it's me or anybody else, right? Like, I'm sure all of you feel this. Like, yeah, it's great having people tell you on Facebook, like when they wish you happy birthday, right? It's like, okay, I sort of know these people, or I knew them in, 20 years ago or whatever. But it's all about that group of people. When that group gets broken down, and the people who are in that group that you trust, you can't trust, because they're the ones laughing and making fun of you behind your back because they think you're weak because you're going through something. That's the hardest thing to overcome of any of this for a lot of people. Doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, who have gone through anything like that. Anything. It's why, to a fault, and it's been a huge fault in my life, being, leaving that at the door without delving in, a huge fault of my life, that I've always stood up for everyone else in my life at all times. And I mean, like, way past when you should have. Way past when you should have. I see that now. And to be honest with you, I go back and I say to myself, I wouldn't change it. I'd do it again, because I don't believe in giving up in other people. And I don't believe that love or loyalty is about if somebody is convenient for you. I believe it's about if you care about them and if they mean something to you. There is no convenience. It's a must. It's an instinct. It's not a want. Those are the people in your life that you need when you're going through things like Austin Meadows is going through. And I'm so glad to hear that it sounds like he's got that base. But what I hope that does, when I read that yesterday, is inspires other people to be comfortable, not so much to come publicly, because it may not have as big a voice as he could carry, but to tell a friend, to tell somebody, hey, look, you know what? I don't got this. One of the big things I've said in my life to the people, I'm laughing because people who are in my life would know, like I say all the time, and I mean it. Every time I've ever said it, I meant it. Like, if I ever say to somebody, like, if I've told you in my life I got you, it means literally, like, I could be trampled over by a car, and if I could still even have a breath, I'll give it to you first, right? And I've always been that way. And because of that, I got this was something I just had to say all the time, even if I didn't, because I wasn't allowed to be vulnerable or weak. And a lot of people feel that, but nobody can imagine, nor can I, what that's like if you're at an athlete or like a rock star level. You're never allowed to be vulnerable. That's why, to do this and to do the things that Kevin Love and DeRozan, there's so many others have been able to, Rick Ankiel, who I've talked to, and my buddy Saxy, Steve Sax, guys who have gone through anything, right? Like, it is amazing how important that is, because still in this world, people going to look down at you. They're going to say, I could take advantage of you. You're the guy in Punch Out. If I punch you here, the pants drop, right? So I got you because you're weak. No, no, no. But what they don't understand is they're weak, you're strong. They're weak, you're strong. You're strong for opening up to them and saying, hey, this is who I am, and I need your help. They're weak for running. They're weak for making fun of you. They're weak for telling their friends or the people. Remember when, look, Zach Greinke, may be, just eccentric to some people and unique and different. But remember the thing a few years ago where there are people in the stands like heckling his family about him having anxiety? Like, what is wrong? Like, what kind of people are these? They're weak, not you. They're weak. So I hope Austin Meadows understands it, and for everybody like him, the strength that you have to do that and that it takes. I'm sure his family and friends or people who know him way better than me are very proud of him. But I think it's even somebody in the baseball community. It was just amazing to see. And I wanted to share that. So I hope people go on Twitter at Austin_Meadows and shoot him a note because people share stories with other people. Like I've had people DM me like over the years and share stories with me that have been meaningful. I mean, I've talked about this before, but even in the last 2 years, I've become friends with like listeners of mine for the years that I didn't even know their stories who reached out to me when other people weren't, and because I resonated in some way with them. I'm just a person. So is Austin Meadows. So is Kevin Love. So is anybody else. So are you. You don't have to be. Yeah, I'm like Q rating is like a Z right now, but like you don't have to be famous or known, or it doesn't matter if you got 8 followers or friends or Instagram likes or on TikTok. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Gives a shit. Doesn't matter. But empower people who are down. Lift them. And if their circle and their family isn't doing enough, get to their family. Enforce that help. Tell them, hey, look, this person needs your help. You may not want to accept it, but you better wake up because they need you. And I wish people had been that way in my life, but I've always been that way in people's lives. And I've seen it where families don't care and don't listen. I have seen it. Seen it. And you can't get through. It's like they don't want to accept. Like, there's nothing wrong with your child if they need help. There's something wrong with you if you won't do it. We all need to push each other, and we all need to light that fire and to be that friend and to be that person. So get out there today and reach out and help somebody else. Do something for someone else. That's the kind of thing I get, inspire when you're under fire by letting go and being vulnerable. I don't care what situation you're in, it really doesn't matter. And I've talked about this. I mean, look, I'm in the midst of literally right now, like today, a world of obstacles that I'm still facing to kind of get back to where I was in 2019 and 2020. And first and foremost, by a million miles for my kids and for their future, let alone for me. Right. But the difference is that I lost for a little bit of time who I was because of how I was being treated by other people about being vulnerable, about being weak. But that weakness is strength. That weakness and that vulnerability is feeling. That's human emotion. Don't be afraid of it. Run towards it. If you know somebody you can help them. If you know somebody you could be there for them. If you know you haven't been that for somebody, go be that for somebody. It makes the world a difference you can't even imagine and to put into words. And I hope people do that for Austin because he's so deserving. And to me, I mean, I liked the guy before, but now I'll be a fan for life. Big time rooting for him. So inspire when you're under fire. Like, look, it's great to I love talking about sports and Timmy's trumpets and everything else, right? And have fun with videos of my dog and, all kinds of stuff, right? But like, we are in a world where we have to remember, as sad as it is, right? And let me tell you something, I'm far from perfect, far. But one thing I can sit there and look right at you and say, if you're watching this on a podcast, if you're listening, I promise you I'm looking right at you, right? You know what the one thing I could say? I'm a damn good person. And I care about people. And I care about humans. And I don't enjoy hurting other people. I feel good helping them. We need more people like that. And we all can inspire other people to be like that. Nobody wants to be unhappy. Nobody wants to be angry. We need to reach out to those people and find out why they're unhappy, why they're angry, and help them instead of pushing them further down. And it's a novel idea to a lot of people in 2022, but it's not going to be for you and me here in this unfiltered revolution. You can count on that. Love you all. Get your merch. See you soon. Episode 51 is coming soon.